This session is recorded today, so just bear that in mind for the presenters as well, and then it'll be available to share with your other colleagues when we finish the session today, and it'll be hosted on our YouTube channel. Just to a little bit of a disclaimer as well, this is the first time that we've tried this sort of session. My wonderful colleague Abs is in the background, moving all the presenters in and out of different places and looking after us. So if there are any technical glitches, please just bear with us. We're doing our best to rectify things as best we can. So without any further ado, I will pass over to Sarah Wilson, who is the Third Sector Involvement Lead as part of the Community Mental Health Transformation, to give us a further overview of what the community grant holders do.
Hi Rachel, thank you so much. Just myself in. So like Rachel said, I'm the Involvement Lead for Third Sector and Community Mental Health Transformation, and I wanted to give a little context about the grant programme as a whole before we pass over to the grant holders themselves to provide overviews of the brilliant work that they're doing in communities. So many of you will know that Community Mental Health Transformation is a national mandate from NHS England to improve support for people with complex mental health needs. And in Leeds, we've been trialling a new hub model, bringing partners across sectors together, including around 10 third sector organisations, to better support people facing complex challenges with their mental health, with all of their different needs, from mental health to housing to employment and more, in one kind of joined up team. So the hubs, as many of you will know, are currently in place in 3 LCPs and are being rolled out across the city over the next year, providing the core services for people with complex mental health needs. But we also recognise the need to resource wider community organisations to deliver interventions across the city, and that has been the focus of the Transforming Mental Health grants. So the grants are delivered as a partnership between Forum Central, Leeds Community Foundation and the ICB, and we funded a diverse range of projects and services, 24 in total, across 2 rounds of funding, delivered by 27 fantastic organisations with a wide variety of skills and expertise. They all provide different types of community-based interventions and approaches, and link to the work the hubs are doing through a variety of different pathways, from care coordinators to social prescribers to the community wellbeing connectors, as well as self-referrals. So in Leeds, we're very lucky to have lots of third sector organisations with the skills and capabilities to work with people with complex mental health needs using strengths-based approaches. And the Transforming Mental Health grants are all about building Leeds' capacity for community care for people with complex mental health needs, funding work that is specifically tailored to cater to their needs. Another core part of the programme is integration. So this is core to Community Mental Health Transformation. And within the grants work, we've been working really hard to forge and strengthen relationships between the community organisations funded and primary and secondary care, which is why we're particularly pleased to have so many people coming today to find out more about them. Our next kind of key project is working with the Crisis Resolution and Intensive Support Service to do a specific piece of relationship building work with crisis services, and many grant holders have forged strong links within their local care partnerships. One example being Nazia from Leeds Mental Wellbeing Service, who attends the Kulu Henna Drama Group at Maffla Theatre every week to provide a bridge into primary care. And finally, we'll be producing a toolkit, a report and a film on what we've learned from the grants, and we'll be focusing on what the grant holder organisations have needed from partners and what do partners need from them to work in a more integrated and effective way. And that should be available in autumn/winter this year. Finally, here is a list of all the grant holders on the screen. They're an incredible group of people and organisations providing a wide range of high quality interventions in communities. And on the event invite, as Rachel mentioned, there's that attachment, Transforming Mental Health Grants Referral Criteria. I urge you to download it, look at the service offers, think about how your service could link with them more closely, and share it far and wide with your colleagues. And then lastly, just a little bit about the broader vision. So I've got on the screen there some graphics from the latest State of the Sector report, which outlines that we have 1,373 third sector organisations in Leeds and around 1,800 informal and emerging groups. And a big part of this work is sharing the significant benefits that more integration between primary and secondary care and communities can bring. At its best, it increases the number of interventions people with complex mental health needs have access to. It provides connection and belonging in their communities as part of a wider care plan. It acts as the bridge for people who have never accessed services into the hubs. It empowers people into self-management, and it supports the capacity of an overwhelmed mental health system. But the central learning here is only when partnerships are strong, integrated and responsive. And we feel like now more than ever before, services are really seeing the huge reciprocal benefits that come from a more connected mental health ecosystem in Leeds. And our vision is that the learning from this grant fund is embedded into the way that the hubs operate as they roll out across the city, and we fund and sustain a vibrant third sector to support and sustain our communities. So that's all from me. I'm going to pass straight on to Dean to talk about Real Connect. Thank you.
Well, thanks for that, Sarah. Right, what I'll do is I'll just get my presentation loaded up. One second. Just bear with me while I get this up on screen. Okay, good. Can I get confirmation that people can see that?
Yes.
That's great, Dean.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dean Matheson from Carmen Centred Community Interest Company. I've been asked to attend today to give a 10-minute overview of the service that we're providing as part of the Transforming Mental Health Grants Programme, round 2, and it was the citywide application that we made. So just to tell you a little bit more about what Real Connect is, what we're doing there, and the collaborative working between ourselves at Carmen Centred, me being one of the directors, and the Feel Good Factor, also based in Chappertown, Leeds. Okay. By the way, the work is focused on Black men's mental health. All right. So as I say, my name is Dean Matheson. Just quickly, I've only got about 10 minutes, so make sure that I cover some of the major points. Just for those who might not be aware, so at Carmen Centred, the mission is to establish and maintain Carmen Centred as a key and major organisation in the delivery of wellbeing services, healing therapies and self-help strategies in and around our local community in order to address health inequalities. So we're all about addressing health inequalities. And some of our values, health equity, empowerment, belief in others, and trust being a big one, to maintain a good, relationship with service users, with the people from the community. Our approach is crisis prevention. So that's where we positioned ourselves originally. We do deal with crisis issues, but we do see ourselves as crisis prevention where we can. Self-care, cultural competency, that's a big one, and reaching the so-called hard to reach, not wanting to see anybody get left behind in Leeds or falling through the gaps. Just a quick flavour of some of the portfolio of services, self-care workshops, all part of the Community Crisis Prevention Service, Coping with Bereavement Project, Women's Group, active listening groups, counselling. In fact, I'll go over to the next slide where we've got one of the flyers. So we've got the Real Talk Black Men's Mental Health Group. I'll be saying a little bit more about that. As I say, the It's All About You Vulnerable Women's Group, a culturally competent counselling and psychotherapy service, a range of complementary therapies, and also recreational therapies. Okay, just to give you an idea of some of the portfolio of services. Okay, so Real Connect, we put the application in for that. Basically at Carmen Centred, we've already been providing counselling and psychotherapy interventions, and that's the outcomes from that are really, really good. A fully funded service that we've been able to provide. Now, actually, it was Karina from Feel Good Factor who then approached myself to say, well, wouldn't it be a good idea to see if we can combine some of the services that we're providing? So on the Carmen Centred side of things, we're doing as I say, the psychotherapy and counselling, whereas Feel Good Factor, they've been delivering a lot of wellbeing activities, so more an activity-based program, which we'll come on to now, really. So I'll give a bit more information about that. So really, the crux of it, the problem is that in terms of Black people in the community, and with a special focus on Black men, just some of the stats that I got from the Synergy Collaborative, with their ethnic inequalities in UK mental health systems paper. So compared to white reference population, a diagnosis of schizophrenia is 5.41 times more likely in Black people. A diagnosis of mood disorder is 3.15 times more likely in Black Caribbean people. And police and criminal justice system involvement is 2.63 times more likely for Black Caribbean people. Just to give a bit of a background to some of the issues in terms of the, the Black population and community of interest. Okay, so Real Connect then, as I say, it's a collaborative effort. So ourselves at Common Centred and Feel Good Factor working together to provide, well-being, mental well-being service for Black men in and around the city. It's called Real Connect. The reason for that is because, as I say, at Common Centred, we're already providing a counselling service which we call Real Talk. And at Feel Good Factor, they were already providing a service called Connect. So it literally is a fusion of the two services, hence the name Real Connect. So just to give you a background to how the name came about. All right. So that's what it's all about. So Real Talk, a little bit more about Real Talk then, as one of the component services, if you like. So as it says on screen here, Common Centre delivers the Real Talk Black Men's Mental Health Service, working specifically with men to encourage and develop well-being, reduce isolation, engage with culturally sensitive psychological intervention, empowerment, self-esteem, confidence, education, and awareness, with a view to improving overall well-being and to address the health inequalities they face. So we actually provide a standard 6 sessions, which is the NHS standard for counselling, 6 one-to-one counselling sessions with the men. And also running alongside that is a men's group session as well. All right, so it's one-to-one sessions alongside group sessions as well. The Connect service from Feel Good Factor, I'll just read it as it is on screen there. Feel Good Factor delivers the Connect Men's Health and Wellbeing Program in partnership with men that will support them to take action on their own health and mental well-being, enabling them to build social networks, connect with their communities, build confidence and self-esteem, and helping them to exercise power and control over their lives. So, combining these two strands together is just an effective way. We're just so delighted that we were successful in our application to roll out this work. So Real Connect, to improve the mental health of Black men in Leeds, who collectively represent some of the most negative data sets in the region in relation to mental health inequalities. Many of these men also have major trust issues with other less culturally competent service providers, which is a barrier to improving their mental health. So, that's such a critical point in dealing with Black men in the city. We want to see Black men living in Leeds have the opportunity to protect and promote their mental health with fewer men socially isolated and at raised risk of suicide. We want to see men contributing positively and proudly in their communities. So that's really essentially what the Real Connect service is all about. The Real Connect project supports participants with complex mental health needs, but as I say, by providing one-to-one and group sessions with our team of Black counsellors and psychotherapists. That's a key point. The actual counsellors themselves and psychotherapists themselves are Black. They're from the community, and for that, just to give that added sense of cultural competency. The main therapeutic interventions will consist of psychodynamic, person-centered, intercultural therapy. So one of our key therapists is an intercultural therapist, psychotherapist, with an holistic approach. Both partner organizations, that's Common Centred and Feel Good Factor, have both earned the trust of Black men in the community, which is a major factor in truly engaging with them in relation to their mental needs. Obviously, for work like this to be successful with good outcomes, really does depend on that trust relationship. Just to give an idea of some of the, if you like, wellbeing activities alongside the psychotherapy interventions, the actual wellbeing activities, as I say, which is pretty much what Connect provides from Feel Good Factor is, just to give you a taste of that, healthy eating, cook and share meal together, cooking on a budget, money management, confidence building, stress management, mindfulness, gardening, bushcraft, photography. As you can see, quite an extensive list there, and that's not the complete amount. All right. I'm probably somewhere near 10 minutes now, I think. So just to say the desired outcomes that we're looking for with this piece of work. So the desired outcomes from the above activities and interventions are to see an improvement in health and mental well-being, to see increased self-esteem and confidence, support to make a difference for themselves and others, and an improved connection with community and community life, and the development of sustainable, meaningful relationships, social networks, and peer support systems. Okay, so I hope I haven't bored you too much with that. There's some contact details here, but I'm sure Sarah and others can spread contact details if anybody wants to learn a bit more about what we do. So with that, I'll say thank you. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you so much, Dean. And as you outlined, there's so much expertise and trust across both Carmen Centred and Feel Good Factor as organisations, and combining those two offers strengthens it even more. We're all connected to such an impactful service for Black men in Leeds, and we're really thrilled to be funding it. Next up, we're going to go to Ethan from Leeds Mind to talk about the Money in Mind offer, which is one of the cost of living grants funded.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'll share my screen for my presentation. So anyone who hasn't met me, my name is Ethan Foster. I'm the service lead for Workplace Leeds and Money in Mind, two services based within Leeds Mind that work together to support employment with Workplace Leeds or economic hardship with Money in Mind. I'm here to give you a whistle-stop tour of Money in Mind in particular, which is one of the funded by the grant, and talk about what the work they do and the importance of such work. With the cost of living rising for everyone, it's important to recognise the challenges that individuals with enduring mental health problems might have with their money, maintaining their financial and economic well-being. We know it's hard enough if you do not have an enduring mental health problem, let alone the intersectionality between the two. There's some stats here just to evidence that 74% of people experiencing enduring mental health problems will struggle to keep up with their bills and payments, leading into deeper debt and in the end exacerbating these mental health problems even worse. 25% of individuals with enduring mental health issues are likely to be in problem with debt and to be struggling to get out of that debt. And 91%, which is an amazing stat to read, of those struggling with enduring mental health often avoid discussing money due to the feelings of embarrassment, guilt, or shame. Now, what Money in Mind is here to do is to support those individuals with economic education and to reduce the hardship on their finances and their economic situation. To give you some history of the service, it's a combination of two previous services that were in Leeds Mind called Money and Me and Help for Hardship. And we put them together to create a more holistic approach to economic support. It's targeted towards anyone who has enduring mental health and feel that mental health impacts their economic well-being. For the one-to-one section of the service, which I'll talk about more in a second, it's very much aimed towards those with these multiple barriers to economic support. And how do we do this? How do we support people with their economic well-being? Well, we do it in three different ways. One of the ways is by accessing many of our economic workshops, which is open to everyone. Anyone on this call today can either self-refer or refer someone into these workshops. They're available via the Leeds Mind website and are bookable via there as well. Some of these workshops will focus on practical skills such as budgeting, while others will focus more on reflective skills such as your relationship with your mental health and money. We even have workshops given by external partners such as Deloitte Consultancy, who live and work within Leeds, who provide a workshop on integrating your finances with modern technology to use apps to stay on top of your financial well-being. Another way we do it is via one-to-one support, known as the Integrated Support Coordinator, who provides this. This works alongside someone and essentially walks alongside their financial journey, ensuring that they can access all the key services within Leeds based around economic well-being. This might be supporting them to build the courage to access food banks. It might be helping them to prepare themselves effectively for conversations with citizens advice. It might be getting them in touch with the right people for debt advice so that they can tackle creditors and challenge the debt that they have. That particular section of the service is limited, but we're looking to expand it more and more as time goes on. Here's a diagram that shows in more in detail. We have 3 tiers to the service. Tier 1 is our light touch support, where we are able to provide people with food parcels, data, SIMs, access to digital equipment for digital inclusion, or access to grants that might help support them with essential costs. This is something we give to everyone who comes into the service, trying to get rid of that immediate strain and struggle that people have with their finances. Tier 2 is the economic workshops, which I talked quite a bit about there. Like I say, you can follow this QR code today or go to Leeds Mind website for a full breakdown of the courses available. And anyone can access them at any time and return to them anytime. And Tier 3 is the one-to-one intensive support with the Integrated Support Coordinator. This is via our trusted partners, which is Citizens Advice or the Food Bank Network or Leeds Mind. Or if someone accesses our workshop and we manage to get an assessment during that time, we might be able to inflow them from there as well. This section of the service is so sought after, really oversubscribed at the moment, and we're trying to gain more and more access for people using this service. As you can imagine, walking alongside someone through their economic hardship can take up to a year. So it's challenging to make sure that we can be out there and really get to the people who need it. Some questions I thought about for today's presentation. What has this service done to address the living pressures, the cost of living pressures with our service? Well, we created this holistic support service with psychoeducation workshops. We've increased our links to provisions such as low-cost food pantries, NG vouchers and NG saving advice charities. We've increased our number of workshops to offer different variety of workshops and different ways for different people who might learn in different ways about their personal situation. We've provided materials for individuals to take away from the workshop so they can continue to learn about their spending habits and their relationship with money outside of these workshops. And we've also increased an individual's ability to manage finances after crisis has been resolved by working with them on that one-to-one basis and helping them make a map as to the next steps for their economic well-being. Now, it's not been easy. There's been many challenges along the way. What are some of the challenges we've identified? Well, we've identified that there's limited social housing, massive rent arrears, people coming unhoused. It keeps people stuck in financial situations. We're looking to try and collaborate with another service to try and gain expertise in housing because we recognise it's such a big element of people's finances. We also understood that universal credit doesn't cover essentials and that people are forced to live in negative budgets. We try to work alongside this by providing people with a quick overview of benefit entitlements via the Entitled To website, which you can access yourself, but also alongside our workers. We also have great partnership working with Citizens Advice to help people understand their benefits and get to the right entitlements as soon as possible. For more information about the challenge and the data behind the universal credit, do check out Trussell Trust, who is another one of our partners, link there. We also recognise that some of the environments that people need to access, much needed access to, such as job centres, to access universal credit or talk to DWP, are not the most supportive environments for individuals with enduring mental health. This is why that one-to-one intensive support is so much needed by working alongside the person, making sure that they can take that person, prepare any information that's needed and prepare them to get the most out of their meetings with these individuals, stopping this cycle of having to leave the service to come back. We also recognise a limited capacity in GPs, which means that service users are struggling to gain access to necessary medical support for the mental health. As part of the transformation, we're looking to try and embed ourselves in more primary, secondary and third sector care to see where we can make these connections and really help people flow easily throughout these services and get the holistic support they need for their economic well-being and mental health. I mentioned a few times that there's plenty of opportunities to collaborate. So if there's anyone who sees this today or who's on the call today that would like to get in touch to talk to us about either how we can upskill your team in economics and mental health, how we can go out there to reach a younger audience to provide more preventative support, how we can spread the awareness of economic abuse, as this is a rising subject that often comes up, or even to collaborate and work with us to meet underrepresented communities, or even to better understand complex systems such as housing, do get in touch. We would love to hear from you and continue doing this great work. I'll end on a screenshot there of where you can access our website, a QR to the website. Feel free to call me directly or our team to speak more about the service, whether you want to access it for yourself, for a friend, for a client of yours, or even if you are someone that you feel can work with us to better tackle this economic crisis, then do get in touch. My email is almost there, as well as Money in Mind. Thank you for your time and attention. It's appreciated, and I look forward to hearing from you all.
Thank you so much, Ethan. I'm sure colleagues in the room are witnessing and working with the incredible pressures the cost of living crisis is having on communities, and having such considered provision that's really integrated with key services like citizens' advice and food pantries is so pivotal to making sure people with complex mental health needs to get the right support. So really appreciate you coming to speak about it today. I think we had some technical issues with the slides there, but we will send them out as an attachment for your reference after the event. And next up, we have Kate Binnington from SureUp CIC, one of the Round 1 grant holders. Great to have you with us.
Hi, can I check that my mic's working?
Yes, we can
That's
hear
great,
you.
Kate.
Oh, I'm not Ben Binnington, although I think it says that on my screen. I am Kate Binnington, under a technological pressure of moving computers and rooms, and as you can see, I'm currently in the children's sort of space in the house. So apologies for the lighting and general kind of difficulties. So I just need to work out how to share on here. There we go. Is that sharing now? Hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Kate Binnington. I'm an occupational therapist, and I run the SureUp CIC. I'm going to specifically talk about the SureUp Occupational Therapy Group Programme today, because that is the part of SureUp that was funded by the Mental Health Transformation Grant. So a bit of background first off. Occupational therapy. Go back. Sorry. Oh, dear me. Occupational therapy, for those that have perhaps not come across it, is really interested in all the things that we do with our time, understanding the relationship between the things that we do. So be that from getting up in the morning to brushing your teeth, to going swimming, to skydiving, to working, to study, whatever it is that we do with our time, it's understanding that that dynamically interacts with our health, and our health impacts on the things that we do. So when we're thinking about occupational therapy as part of SureUp, we're thinking about helping the individuals that come to our occupational therapy group programme to really think about and have time and space and structure to help them to think about, how do they spend their time? What does it mean for them? What are the values? What's going wrong with that? What's going right? How can we think about how our daily lives impact on our health? And we do that with a group process. So we meet over 12 weeks. The group is open to anybody in Leeds with complex mental health difficulties. We are non-diagnostic led, so that means that if you or your client feel that the complexities of their mental health impact on their quality of life and their ability to do the things they need and want to do in their day-to-day lives, we are the group that might be helpful for them to come along to. We meet over 12 weeks. We have 9 sessions. We meet at Catching Hare Hills, and the intention of the group is to slowly and gently build a picture of occupational engagement. And again, that occupational engagement isn't just about work. It is about Why do you do the things that you do? How do you do the things that you do? What works, what doesn't? Can you give yourself a bit of self-compassion about why you might do those things that way? All of this is about being together with people who can understand those challenges of complex mental health and also see the value in what you do and how you do it. We work through a series of different topics each week, thinking about why do we do things in a group, where you spend your time, how does that impact on you? So thinking about physical and social environments. We think about time use, so what's the balance of the things that we do and why we do them. And we think about kind of how do you experience the world, understanding that everybody's circumstance and everyone's interaction with the world will create differences. So really building a picture of an individual's experience of their personal circumstances in that moment in time. That leads us to thinking about change. And when we talk about change at the group, we are thinking about small changes, daily changes, not the big changes, the nitty gritty. I always talk about occupational therapy as the nitty gritty of life. It isn't about the big picture stuff. It's about understanding that small, manageable changes in daily life can have really big impact longer term and really big impact on how we feel. So we have a whole session thinking about why is change difficult? How can we work with that? And what is the process of change all about? That leads into everybody in the group having an action plan. Those action plans are as specific, as small, as big, as moderate as individuals like, what they need in their process. So although we are a group process, the outcomes are really individualised because each person does their own self-assessment as part of this group programme. And what that means is that really meaningful change and really valid change for that person in those circumstances can be affected. Then there's a space for people to go and try out their plans. So the action plans are quite detailed in terms of what are you going to do, how are you going to do it, what's going to get in the way, what strategies are you going to use. And then we come back together as a group, and this is a really important part of the programme. We don't just set people off to make these changes and leave them to it. We come back together as a group to really reflect on what's happened, what's been helpful, what's not. Do you need to adjust your plan? Do you need to amend it or tweak it or start over? Did that plan not really work for you in your life? All of that's okay. All of that is helpful information. And then there's another break where people go and continue with their plans, whatever changes they may have made or new plans they've made. And we come back for a final session thinking about how things have been over the whole course of the process. So that's the kind of the structure. I guess the things that aren't captured there is the value of being with other people, the value of being able to talk about how you're feeling without it taking over the whole session. So we have each week, we follow the same structure. We have a check-in where people talk about their emotional experiences that day in the here and now. We have a warm-up, which is intended to help people go, okay, that's how I came feeling. Can I be here and be present and be with this group of people? We'll have a main task following these kind of topics. And we have a checkout, again, thinking about how you're feeling in the here and now. The importance of that, the feedback we've got from group members, is that it's really helpful to acknowledge how people are feeling, but try and not get stuck in that feeling. So move on to thinking about what else could be different, and move on to thinking about some theory and some change. So that's the structures that we use. In terms of plans, so I said before, plans can be as big or as small as individuals need. And we do have a huge range of different types of plan each time that we meet. So in the past, we've had people who have focused on their morning routine. How does the first 10 minutes of my day impact on how I feel for the rest of that day? The process of the group enabled that individual to really see that rather than just moving through time and kind of getting on with whatever the day presented, she was able to recognise that the days when she got up and opened her curtains were better than the days that she didn't. The days that she got up and went outside for a cup of tea were even better again. So her plan was around trying to find ways to encourage her. So having prompts on her phone, having prompts, literally signs up on the wall, remember to open the curtains, you feel better if you do this, to try and encourage her to do the thing that she'd identified as really helpful for her moving on with a different feeling in the day. So that's one end of plans. At another end, we've had people do online education as part of their plan, and part of the plan is not only finding those educational centres, but also how to choose which topics to start with, where, when, and for what reason are you going to do that education. And we've also had people do things like Tai Chi or volunteer. So we really do cover a big range of intervention and it is entirely led by that individual self-assessment throughout those 7 weeks of the weekly meetings. So what that means is that although we can come with ideas of what might be useful for people's plans, they're really led by individual choice and where people are ready to go. So people need to be ready, don't they, for that next step and that change. And the process that we offer gives structure and space to help them work out how far out of their comfort zone they can go, a little toe dip on the edge or full feet in. It depends on the individual, really. What other things have we done? So crosswords, somebody wanted to just be able to ensure that they had 15 minutes in their day just to do something that was just for themselves. It wasn't realistic in their context to go out. It wasn't realistic for them to think that they could go and join a group each week. That wasn't part of how their circumstances worked. So we looked at what were they interested in, what were they good at, how could they find a little bubble of respite, a little moment of peace in their daily life. And this person really enjoyed puzzles and felt that often they didn't really work their brain as often as they wanted to. So they focused on creating a plan that each day they would do a puzzle and each day they would stick with it. And what they reported back was that at first it was really hard to give themselves that time to do that. But by the end of the process, each day they were doing their 15 minutes of puzzles and having that little moment of peace in their day, which was really important for them. Often what we think about when we think about plans is thinking about how to make them values led. Often people with complex mental health needs, I'm sure everyone will be aware, there's a lot of time just surviving and there's a lot of time doing what other people might think is a useful thing to do. So a lot of what we explore at the group is thinking about how do you know what's important to you? How do you know what you're interested in? Because it's not always a given that people have got that information to hand because they're so busy just getting through the day and surviving whatever it is they need to survive in their day. So that's an example of some of the plans that we have used. And that's all our contact details, and I'm just trying to be aware of time. We also run, so that's the occupational therapy group. We've also been awarded some funding to develop a follow-on group. So this means that anybody that comes to our and completes the occupational therapy group programme will be offered access, open-ended access to a follow-on group, which will meet in 6-week blocks. It's a pilot scheme at the moment, so it will depend on how all that goes. But the intention of that is that we will revisit themes that have come up in the occupational therapy programme. We will also invite other services in to come and talk to us. So we're trying to really create that kind of network feeling and hopefully bridge some gaps between what we're offering and what other sort of resources in the community are offering. And there'll also be an opportunity there for service users to direct that, really. So in the first week of each 6-week block, group members will come and let us know what they want to look at. Do they want to look at occupational balance? Do they want to think about occupational identity? Or is it actually something more practical? Is it maybe money in mind? Having heard Ethan talk, is it somebody coming talking to them about financial security and difficulties? Or is it something altogether different? Is it going to visit the art gallery in town? All of these things will be possible within that follow-on group, with the intention that we take that grounding that we've created in the programme and spread it into community resources and help people to access a real range of support that might be useful for them. The last thing to tell you about is that we also run a social club, which is a drop-in basis, so no referral required, and that's open to people with and without mental health difficulties. Because what we've sometimes found is that those with mental health difficulties have friends or family that might like to attend something with them, and that's not always so easy to do if it's a mental health specific support group. So we meet once a month at the Thackeray Museum on the last Saturday of the month, and we meet once a month online. All of our details are on our website, and also we share all our events on our social media channels. And I'm always really happy to speak to anybody with its clients or staff or anybody that's interested in finding out more. Please just get in touch. We're always really happy to talk about what we can offer and have conversations with people and see if it's something useful for them. I think that's about me. I've possibly gone really fast. Apologies if I have.
You were brilliant. Thank you so much, Kate. It's such an important part of this work is funding grassroots organisations, and Shore Up is such an incredible example of a highly skilled grassroots organisation with a fantastic evidence-based model that needed some fledgling funding to continue growing and expanding, and we're really thrilled to be part of this journey with you. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Huge thanks to all of our speakers for their contributions and to all of our grant holders for the impactful work they're doing in communities. Again, we urge you to read through the referral criteria of all 24 projects and think about how your offer may link with theirs to maximise the support people with complex mental health needs can access. So now for around 45 minutes, we're going to open the floor for a Q&A. So you should see a Q&A icon on your screen. If you click it, you should be able to type and submit questions and we'll take a read through and various members on the screen are available to answer them. So think, what would you like to know from us? Maybe about the grants as a whole, what you want to hear from specific grant holders about their provision. We'll pass over to you. Okay, so there's a question from Carl here. Can I ask how it's been working within a system which sometimes doesn't feel as progressive? Have you seen any positive change in other institutions while you've been delivering your programs? Oh, great question. I think that we are in such an interesting time. Anyone else feel free to chip in, but I'll say my 2 cents. Because of the culture change we're trying to bring about with community mental health transformation and the fact that we are working towards more integration, I think now more than ever before, there's a real understanding of the reciprocal value that comes from connecting more with grassroots, medium-sized organisations. But I will say that the big issue that we all have is capacity, and how much headspace do organisations have to prioritise these relationships when they are struggling with their own caseload and all their conflicting internal priorities. And I suppose what the toolkit is trying to communicate and evaluating this work as a whole is that idea that I explained at the beginning of, if you invest some time into relationships, the capacity that is built is significant, and that we're stronger than when we're working together, but also acknowledging the huge challenges that people are experiencing. I suppose that's my 2 cents. Would anyone else like to chip in on that one?
I'd love to jump in as well. We all know that institutions are long-standing and still a challenge to be more progressive, and I think that's something that will be for many years. But from my personal experience and Money in Mind, I've seen a dramatic change in those environments I mentioned earlier, such as Job Centre Plus or community kind of mental health teams that have really invested in the transformation, really understood that to help those who need it the most is to bring in what they see as experts or specialists in that situation, so they can meet the needs of the most and we can meet the needs of those who need that extra level of support. It's still going to take a long time and a lot of working together, I think, to really push that needle in the right direction, but I am seeing more people open to those conversations, which is really heartwarming for myself going forward.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Ethan. Has anyone got any more questions? No question is too small. While you have us here, what would you like to ask us? We'll give some time for people to think.
It's just worth mentioning, Sarah, just that there's been a few comments in the chat as well, just thanking the presenters and saying what great presentations.
We've got a question here as well from Pip. You all seem so connected with people with lived experience of severe mental health issues with this transformation seeking to reach in different community settings. How have people helped shape what you have developed?
I'd love to jump in on this one again. Please tell me if I'm taking up too much space. With our project in particular, there was a lot of research and support and co-production done with National Mind, with individuals who experienced financial and economic hardship. So they gave both their anecdotal experience as well as a viewpoint as to what they needed the most, and they identified all those challenges I listed today came from them, of what they've experienced and what they needed to support that. So we do cherish lived experience and feel that the experts are truly the people who experience it themselves, and try to have that the cornerstone of any work we do. But yeah, it comes from them and from I believe it was a couple of years worth of research from both Trussell Trust and National Mind, and anecdotal input from the co-production team.
Fabulous, thank you. Dean, would you like to come in?
did the classic and had my mic on mute. Yeah, no, I'd just like to quickly come in on that as well. Yes, it's so important to get the input from those who you're working with. So that co-production is an absolute must. In the piece of work that we're doing, obviously with men and Black men in and around the city, it's so important that the men feel that they have a stake in it, and that their needs from themselves, articulated from themselves, is being heard and listened to. That's really, really important, because let's face it, it's really hard to get men engaged with services. We know that. Everybody knows that. Often you get a better, if you like, turnout from women than you do from men when it comes to any such intervention. So, and then on top of it, with Black men in the community, there is a lot of mistrust when it comes to certain services and certain service providers for a variety of reasons, not least because of cultural incompetency. So that it's all the more of a reason then to make sure that it's co-produced work, so that there's a higher level of engagement, and a real sense that the real needs are being addressed. So I just wanted to comment on that, really, from that perspective.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We now have a flurry of questions. Okay, would you like to come in as well?
Just to say very quickly about so occupational therapy is often not sought after in the complex mental health world, because people don't really know we exist in this context. A lot of people think about occupational health or occupational therapy in terms of adaptations. So we're in a kind of a difficult position sometimes. But what we have found is that when we do talk to people about what occupational therapy is actually about, it makes really logical sense and really intuitive sense to people. And from that, we've then been able to take feedback, and this is where we've got this follow-on group from. And one of the great things about the Mental Health Transformation Grant is that continuation of funding has enabled us to really take the feedback from our clients and put that into a new service that we're going to develop, and hopefully that will be like the next layer of work. So yes, I just wanted to kind of highlight that sometimes services offer things that people aren't sure that they need, but they know they need something. So part of, I guess, hopefully people who we're speaking to today is that you can help us to talk about what we can offer to the clients and service users that you see.
Such a brilliant point. Thank you, Kate. So just to quickly say that we were due to have another speaker today, Becky from Season Well, and she's put in the chat that she's sending her apologies. The Feed Yourself Well project, Season Well, is running to support people with complex mental health difficulties, struggling with the cost of living, especially food, is in the referral criteria document. We'll also send her presentation out after the event. So now we've got loads of questions. The next one is the Money in Mind project, Ethan. Is there information available for South Asian communities / languages?
So our website on Leeds Mind, I believe, should have an option to translate. I will double check that with our tech people. In terms of leaflets and more paper material, we can get that translated using the Leeds City Council translation service. So if needed, just let us know. We can get that ordered and sent out to whoever needs it, especially if you're a local kind of faith leader or community leader that you think would be able to share this information. That'd be really handy. So do get in touch. My email is ethan.foster@leedsmind.org.uk. At the moment, we have a standard leaflet that's already been produced in English, but like I say, we can get it translated to whatever language we feel is needed.
Thank you, Ethan. There's a question here from Sharon. How do we refer to each or any of your fabulous organisations? I would urge you to download the referral criteria, because on it there is a section under each organisation that lists how you can refer. Nice feedback from Haley there. There's a comment here from Sharon B about some of the language that was used in this session, and that the comment nitty gritty is hugely offensive. Would like to apologise. I know that it can be complex. Our awareness and use of language, I'm really grateful to you for calling that out, and making sure that we are aware of the language we use and its meaning and its context. So thank you for raising that. There was another comment here There are so many different and good groups. It's hard to share the info with carers who are trying to find options for their grown-up children, adults in their 20s, 30s, 40s and 50s. I do try at carers meetings, but how can I do this more effectively, please? Thank you, Barbara. That's an interesting question. I suppose maybe it's thinking differently about interaction with these organisations and what it might look like, rather than just sharing written materials, whether we might be able to bring some of the groups into carers groups, or maybe we could produce videos or something that makes the offer kind of more accessible. We could absolutely explore that with you, Barbara, outside of this meeting. A question from Martin, interested to know how these projects pick up and connect with more complex service users who really benefit from these, and what is asked for in terms of connecting with staff and key workers in the community teams. Would anyone like to take that question from the perspective of their service? I think it could be quite different depending on different organisations and their offers.
Yeah, sure. In terms of enduring mental health, complex or otherwise, in terms of use of terminology, we approach that alongside the kind of key teams in transformation. So we work alongside the community mental health teams, the primary care teams, and we're working hard to try and integrate more and more into those teams. So those individuals who feel as if they need a multifaceted support for their mental health can get that. Money in Mind will work towards the reflective element of your mental health and its relationship with your finances, but for the more in-depth clinical support, perhaps psychoanalytical support, we work with a clinical team. So that's how we would kind of find out who we're line back to that support and work alongside them to make sure the person is supported as much as possible.
Absolutely. I think what I'd emphasise is, if you think that your service would be beneficial for them to connect with a certain offer, contact them and have a conversation with them about the best way to join up. Would really urge you to do that, because I think it's great as well to build those relationships. And thank you, Ethan, for giving a bit more context there. Yes, Jo, you can share the presentations as far and wide as you like. The further and wider the better. There's a question here. Do you work with asylum seekers who are residing in hotels in Leeds? Would anyone like to address that on behalf of their organisations? I know lots of organisations and the grant holders do.
I would say that we will. I would caveat that the access to the services within Leeds, such as correct benefit entitlement, such as access to grants, sometimes often hinder on people, whether they have kind of nationality in the UK or kind of the ability to work and access various resources in the UK. That's something we can discuss with the person and make sure that they can get as much use of the service as possible. But certainly the workshops, the provisions that we provide, like the access to food banks and the kind of data, seems like practical support we can definitely give to anyone that feels they need it, that have enduring mental health and economic hardship. Like I say, it's just that extra level of engaging with the job centre or DWP where there might be a barrier due to their kind of immigration status, which is just something to be aware of when communicating that to anyone who is interested in service.
It's a really good point. What we've tried to do as well in the referral criteria is put on if there are any examples of themes of inappropriate referrals for each service, just to try and make sure that we have that kind of information at the beginning stage of who may be more appropriate for these services and who may not benefit from these services as much as well. So it's worth looking at those too. There was a comment from Sharon. I work in a long COVID service. We're picking up some people with long-term complex mental health issues. We refer to LMWS. They are people who have lost the ability to cope with long-term problems post-COVID. Well, Sharon, we'd find it really valuable if you looked through the referral criteria and thought about maybe some of the links that the people you work with could benefit from. I think it would be great to work together. And then we've got a comment from Jonathan. Great presentations. Thank you for sharing your amazing work. Love the partnership approach, clarity of the project summary sent to us in the attached PDF, and the detail the project teams attend to on daily people to help community members. I like the small changes approach. Lastly, the Carmen Centred Feel Good Factor project is very reassuring that all the staff and therapists on this initiative are Black, and all the cultural intellect and experience that brings. Clearly an important, much needed and well considered project. Thank you so, that's such a lovely comment. Thank you so much. I've just seen a couple more questions. We'll maybe take one more. I joined my GP practice patient participation group. How can we ensure GP surgeries, PCNs and LCPs are aware of these services, especially those in early implementers, please? Another great question from Barbara. I would say share the referral criteria far and wide, and we're doing a lot of work to make sure that we're doing outreach into those LCPs to make sure that people are aware of the services that are available. But the more you can all help us by sharing the word far and wide, the better. Can the criteria be sent? Yes, it can. Okay, so I think probably we should round it up and draw things to a close. A massive thank you to everybody for all your questions, for everyone who attended, sorry. And I just wanted to give a major shout out to the LCP development team, particularly Rachel Shaw and Abs, who has been our technical wizard across the day. We could not have done it without you. This is a complex format, and for you to have done this is, truly hats off to you, Abs. Thank you kindly. So yeah, we thank you all so much for coming. We hope you continue to follow the work of this grant fund and its findings, and work with us to maximise the interventions people with complex mental health needs can benefit from when the organisations are in this kind of responsive, connected partnership. It's all our work together, and we really appreciate your support on this. And I hope you feel as inspired as I always do when I hear from the work that the grant holders are doing. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and thank you all so much for coming. Any further questions, email the LCP development team and we'll happily answer them between us. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks so much.